Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Your Turn with your wonderful host, Paraka the Goblin, and
Ghost, your co-host.
in this week, this last couple of weeks, there wasn't really much of anything that went on, but this is one of the reasons why we kind of slowed down, kind of slow our roll, as it were. Man, words are hard today. But there was still stuff that's worth talking about. Apparently this last couple of weeks, there was an anniversary of one of Atari's systems that got released, which we can go ahead and start on right there. Apparently the Atari, I think it's 2500 or 5200, something like that, numbers. Xbox got us really messed up, let's just say that, right? This last week or so, I think it was on Monday, it was like an anniversary for that. Last year was Atari's 50th anniversary, so they've been kind of pseudo celebrating that. So we could just take a quick look at a lot of the experiences we've had with Atari. Why not? You know, It's a slow week, we can do that. And believe it or not, I think Atari kind of is just a skin suit for like multiple companies by this point. This is what the second or third company that's like wearing it as a headdress and like, I am Atari now.
Yeah.
So, because the original Atari tanked with the original Atari stuff.
So somebody else bought them out.
Yeah, they bought. I think they just bought the name and the IPs, and like, yeah, we're just it's basically it's an older version of THQ Nordic, you know. And they just did a lot of publishing at one point in time during the PS2, GameCube era and stuff, and people were like praising it and stuff.
But I thought this was like more recent.
No, I'm saying one of the first ones that were purchased.
Okay, gotcha.
I think the company I was mentioning, the one that did the bunch of publishing, also tanked, and then that company got bought up, and then they all just wear the Atari mask now. But originally, I think they came back and they started publishing some stuff for the GameCube and the PlayStation 2. And one of the favorite ones that a lot of people praised it for was that Godzilla fighting game, the Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, which was really fun. I actually really, really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of bummed that they don't really have any type of leverage to get that back. But, you know.
That's all right.
That's where it was from there.
Well, I mean, I guess you could buy it again, right?
Yeah, it's physical. I can.
So
it's not. I don't think it's ever released on Steam. Actually, I don't know. I'd have to check that out.
Because I think
there's so much crap on Steam. I can't filter through it all the time.
Yeah, the 50-year anniversary collection is out.
Yep, the 50th anniversary collection, which has like a lot more than they had. Another previous collection released before that, called Atari Flashbacks, which I think is hilarious because it's like a handful of their original console releases on top of all of their arcade releases, right? And that right there collectively didn't even make up. In fact, the UI that they made to allow you to pick all those games took more memory space than all those games combined. So that just shows you where we're at in life, you know. But yeah, like I got to kind of revisit a couple of them, dude. For a game that has just a control stick and one button, you don't really know what to do with a lot of what you're doing. You're just kind of throwing yourself at it and just pressing button, like, you know. And I think the interesting parts of just looking back at it is like how simple and imaginative basically our parents were.
Yeah.
You know, because flashing yellow lights, oh, that must be a forest. Like, huh? Like,
well, the nice thing is that I kind of wish that most game designers should go back to something as simplistic as that, because you could do so much more. Now everybody wants like ultra realistic and
yeah, and that's another reason why I kind of like the indie stuff, you know. But I still even think, and you're right fundamentally. I think that a lot of indie should like play some of these old games, like really kind of like dig into it, not just kind of futz with it and stuff. And go, oh, I guess I'm just still better than this, you know. I think it would really do them good as kind of like an analysis of it. You know, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think it would be something where we could really appreciate where we've came from in terms of game design perspective, you know. But there is there's a lot of indies out there that kind of just use the Atari or the idea of the Atari or imagery of the Atari as a way of like, LOL, we're so retro, and it's really like not really the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's happened way more often nowadays than I've ever seen it happen before, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you have, like, random skins for, like, League of Legends that's, like, this ultra retro when it's, like, just pixels and stuff. And I'm like, that's still not Atari, though, dude. You know? Like, it's weird. It's really weird.
And they also brought out a arcade cabinet.
Yeah, they pulled out a couple of arcade cabinets with arcade, 1UP Arcade or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just released an Atari 50 one, which was like a huge all-encompassing library of all their older, basically just their arcade games, with maybe even a few from the actual systems. But I think it's more of the arcade stuff.
Looks pretty cool. Kind of pricey though.
I mean, well, you gotta think you're paying for not only the license, but you're also paying for like all the equipment on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure just the game itself, you're paying like $1 each for each one of those games. But I mean, that like at one corner of our mausoleum has those Turtles games. So, and that thing was like what, $400?
Yeah.
So it's not too far out of there, but it'll. Maybe one day we should add another classic one. I'm thinking Namco or Midway. Just have a whole collection of like Mortal Kombat. But
Time Crisis.
honestly, I'm kind of actually surprised not many more arcade games get released anymore. Like, a lot of it's just those kitschy like Buck Hunter stuff and all that. You know, the racing games where you just sit in the car and you just and all that. I don't know. I miss those days. Like, I know it's very boomery of me to say, but I kind of like just miss those days of going into an arcade periodically and just being able to just play some instead of just at a Dave and Buster's where it feels like you just have to pretend.
Yeah.
You know, it has
Dave and Buster has a bunch of like modern stuff though. I want like the really old stuff. The stuff we grew up with.
Well, not even just that. Like, I would be fine with a mix of modern and classic, but the stuff that Dave and Buster's has is always the super modern.
Yeah.
Like it will never be Time Crisis 3. It will always be the newest Time Crisis.
Yeah.
You know, and then if Time Crisis gets too old, you're just not gonna have Time Crisis.
Yeah.
You're gonna have whatever else booger thing that comes out.
Well, another issue is also maintenance, because you'll always have a really bad dead zone to where it shoots like, you know, a couple of inches to the right. Like.
Yeah, there is, and honestly, that comes with the territory. Honestly, like, the technology will continue to improve, but yeah, there is some weird stuff that those dead zones just exist. But there are like a lot of like bar and grills out there that are just, you know, some no-name hole-in-the-wall place that kind of has like their theme of just having a corner full of arcades for all these guys that actually use quarters and stuff.
Yeah.
There's actually one just north of the mausoleum, actually, that has new and old pinball machines. And there's some new ones that are just crazy. Like, they revised like a lot of these old tables and kind of remade them and stuff, and they're just insane.
Oh,
and they even have like they even have stuff that's kind of like this weird arch that has like a small miniature animatronic on top of it to kind of keep an eye on you and like talk to you and stuff like that. It was kind of wild. Like, before it's just a square, but now they have a little bit extra. I'm like, I am not entirely okay with this.
Or even the old ones, even really old.
Back in my day, but they do have an old one, which is like apparently one that Sega helped include, which was a racing one. But the like lights are all dimmed out on it and stuff. It looks like it's just on his last legs, and it's in the dark corner.
I kind of like those though, where it's just like almost no electronics and it's just all levers. That stuff's kind of cool, actually.
It's just so hard to see with everything else being bright and stuff. You're like, you would think you'd be. It just looks so miserable in contrast to everything else around it. You know, like, I think some new lighting and stuff would actually just do it well.
We're spoiled.
You know, well, I'm just saying, like, some LEDs and stuff, just replace that crap. Yeah. Like, that's all you might need. But,
anyways, Atari.
Going back from that, but yeah, no, Atari does have like a little arcade thing. I think they have like a good contract for a good couple of years with Arcade 1UP, so there'll probably be more.
Okay.
Which is weird because the new Atari, which is I think the third company third or fourth company. Don't quote me on that. Wearing the Atari mask, they're like revisiting a lot of older games and making quote unquote recharged versions. So you see all these like Breakout Recharged and Lunar Landing Recharged and Yar's Revenge and like just all this whole thing, right? And it's like a newer version of that game featuring extra buttons and extra stuff to do and graphics instead of just pixels.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And one of them is like a full 3D, which is really weird. There's a game called Haunted House. The most basic nonsense they have right here. But for Atari, it used to be like a pair of eyes that you'd just be around in the dark. You're trying to find yourself a way through it. But I never could figure out how to solve these puzzles because it's just one button. Like, what am I supposed to do? But I don't know. They just did it, and now that I'm looking at the new version, I'm like, I could actually play that. I could actually know what I'm doing. Like, and it really is telling that we had parents that would just play the one with the one button. You think it would be stupid, like simplified, and you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. Meanwhile, these people probably did this thing, and you're like, oh, that's a key. I'm like, how's that a key? Like there's some stuff that goes on in that, and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure how you figured any of this out.
Well, I mean, I guess there's like touchscreen controls too. There's flick up, flick down, flick left and right, touch, tap, and hold. That's like all you really got for mobile games. So you gotta be more intuitive with that as well too. So.
Oh, it's not just on mobile; it's on consoles and stuff too. They got a lot of.
I know, but I'm talking about like non-conventional controls. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many other things that they have for now, and it's interesting that you could look at this remake of it and you could understand how you have to play it, and then you still look at the old one and you're like, I have no idea what the hell's going on. Like there was a couple arcades out there that are still floating around that I still like walk by and I go, I still don't know how you even work. Like I'm not interested in them, but there is that.
Okay.
But even when you watch those like little demos, it's just like, we moved this thing and it won. Ta-da! And I'm like, what just happened? Like it's crazy. But I grew up with Atari systems in my house when I was but a goblin pup. So I got to play them quite a bit. In fact, when I turned 18, I actually have a system still floating around out here somewhere. I gotta get it out of other boxes and stuff. But it keeps them dry from the leakiness from this dank place. But I have those machines. I still have them to this day, and maybe only a handful of games for them. But it's still one of those, like, it's a relic that just I keep because it shocks me. It takes me back, and I remember seeing them constantly. I remember my parents and their friends always playing them, and they're just playing these games that they just somehow know what all those things are supposed to be. What about you? Any memories with Atari at all?
No, I didn't really grow up with it. I mean, I played some of it. Most of them, like, it's to be a Zoomer, I'm like way out. It's like way out of my age range, I guess. And I'm not a Zoomer, but I didn't really start getting into games until.
He's a boomer.
I didn't really start getting in until the Game Boy Advance, basically, around that era. So, yeah.
I don't even remember if Atari made any like GBA games. Like at that time, I think they were just publishing stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of why I shilled the Game Boy so much. It was also the day before the cell phone. So when you had a Game Boy, that was like the coolest shit.
Yep. And I remember the cell phones coming out and be like, oh my god, you got a cell phone, oh, you should have done. And then the smartphone thing, and like I remember everything. I was like, I still had like this Nokia like flip phone, like yeah, I'm not moving from this. Quite honestly, this is only used for calls anyway, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like, because I had a Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
I had games. I don't need apps. I don't know what the hell all that crap is, Didn't care for it. In fact, my smartphone now, I don't really have much on it either. Like, I have a bunch of random apps that it keeps bloating my system with.
Yeah.
But I barely use any of them. And you can't even delete a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, I should just disable it. I'm like, no, I want to get you rid of this so I could save the 2 gigabytes that you're wasting.
That's why you root boot.
You know, so, yeah. Yeah, so we are just going on all sorts of tangents today about Atari without being Atari. But yeah, it's
Sony.
Yeah, no
You're on.
Sony, more Sony. We're gonna do that.
You're on our shit list. You're on the naughty list.
You're just like, I am tired. I don't want to talk about Atari anymore. I am not in that group. So we're moving on to the next topic.
Boy,
we don't need a segue. We just need this harsh change right now, halfway through.
I got a bone to pick with these guys.
So Sony picked up a mobile developer, or a developer known for some work with Destiny Child, which we all heard you mourn before. And the new game Nikke, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah.
And they just approached, and it's a Korean mobile game company. So they just tried to do their boldest move yet and make a game called Stellar Blade, which was Project Eve at one point in time, and it just looks like a action game of some kind. We don't really know much beyond that. We just know that it's an action game of some kind with a very stereotypical girl robot, maybe, but it's in some kind of robotic skin tight suit.
Korea's near Automata.
Yeah, basically Korea Automata. But basically the thing that you always imagine Korea to do to appeal to the certain group with the same thing over and again, they're making that game. Nobody heard about it, and now they just decided to be a second party to Sony for the PlayStation.
Well, I mean, like, during E3 when they announced it as well, too, it only had a PlayStation logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, a little bit further down, they're like, yeah, it'll be PC, maybe Xbox or something like that. So it wasn't...
Kind of gave non-answers.
Yeah, basically. So it wasn't, like, a hard Sony game. And then Sony came by, bought them out. Or not really bought them out, but made them a second party. So
we're going to back up a moment, because I know a lot of people kind of wonder what that all that entails, as far as what's the difference. Like, they weren't bought up, but they're separate. Second party basically is that a company that they work with closely, consistently. They don't have full control over said company. Mm-hmm. And just like going all the way back to Nintendo and Rare. Rareware, when it was the Super Nintendo to the 64, Rareware kind of held a lot of that work on their shoulders, but Nintendo would always be the one funding a lot of their projects because they worked exclusively with Nintendo, and they had a good distribution system with Nintendo's deal and stuff too. So they worked closely with Nintendo. They have declared that that's what they wanted to do, but Nintendo did not own a majority share in them, or even had a possibility to do so until they started playing the buyout wars with Microsoft, and Nintendo just didn't want to take a swing. Which is funny, because Rareware really regrets doing that, and they said they really wanted Nintendo to buy them out, and Nintendo just doesn't play that game. That was on you guys, jackasses. Enjoy Pirate Game for the rest of your lives. But basically, that's what's going on with this.
yeah.
Right? And
So that's what second party is.
that's basically what second party is. So, in technicality, Shift Up can still do other stuff outside that. So that means basically Nikke wouldn't mean that Sony has control or deciding factors in Nikke, for example. They are probably not responsible for Destiny Child closing, again, for an example.
Yeah.
Those were probably done by the company themselves before they even signed the deal with Sony.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Now-
sure they were already bleeding pretty badly until Sony kind of came up and picked them up.
So, does Sony have some kind of influence? Maybe, but we don't know how that agreement would entail.
I'm not
You know what I
holding
mean?
my breath. I'm not holding my breath.
I don't think. Well, here's the thing. Like with Nikke, I don't think Sony has any real control or decision making with it.
It's a mobile game.
But I do think Sony having some kind of like Sony phone or Sony kind of collaborative
Well, I mean,
efforts
like,
and
yeah,
stuff,
if they
they'll
want,
probably do something
if they want to make like a third-person shooter on the PS5, then they have sway on the one on the PS5.
Yeah.
But with Stellar Blade though,
well, I think
the worst case scenario. I'm planning for the worst case scenario because I got zero faith left in the AAA market.
Well, let's put it this way too. They're already a mobile game company that has one failure and already has one that's a mediocre game, like collectively, not just in your personal perspective. And then they just started trying to make this major release, right? Major console solid release, right?
Yeah.
Even if Sony did their worst, it would still be a better situation than what they had beforehand. Like they're just in the grand scheme of things, they're a no-nothing, no-name mobile game developer. Mm-hmm. For them to even have somebody come knocking on their door that has a console is pretty huge for them. Now,
the devil.
Basically, it's like it could be basically a devil's deal, you know? It could easily be that, you know? Now, did I have faith in Stellar Blade being anything anyway? No. I think from what I saw in the trailers and the way the characters are designed and stuff, it looks like your most stereotypical action game. Run around, press A for a bunch of times, collect goods. Girl screams and giggles, people get horny, game sells, I guess.
So we want that.
No.
Yeah.
You don't want just press A, do thing.
You don't.
We really just discussed why it was so problematic with Atari doing that.
I guess.
But no, that's literally like it's boring. Like as many people keep going, yeah, but the sexual appeal and stuff. The sexual appeal can only take that game for a certain amount of time, and then if it's always that shallow, people are gonna lose interest anyway.
People still buy junk food.
Yeah, and people still buy hentai, but they don't call that a video game. You know? So
but it's not a hentai.
It could be. We don't know.
Sony ain't gonna do it. They're coming in there so they could censor it. Like
no. I think what's gonna happen is I don't think that like the game, like I think the style of the game is gonna remain the same. It's gonna stay very generic. But I don't think I literally think it's gonna like get pumped full of the graphic fidelities, and they're gonna be like, look how many sparkles we have on screen type crap for the PS5, so people kind of get excited about it. Mm-hmm. And then when they finally start getting into the meat and potatoes of it, like when it finally gets released,
it's a mobile game.
It's gonna be like your tap game
yeah.
On a mobile game. It's like it might as well been like it's gonna be that shallow of stuff. Like I'm gonna say this.
I know
it's gonna look better than Forlorn. It's gonna play worse than Forlorn or Forspoken.
Forspoken. Okay.
Forspoken. Forlorning Forspoken. But no, yeah, Forspoken. It's gonna look better because people are like, "Oh my god, sex appeal!" But the sex appeal is gonna be pretty mundane.
Well, here's the thing, though. It really pisses me off because it's either them trying to like backpedal anime boobs, or them just coming in and be like, oh, we don't like this, so we're gonna like censor it. Like, it's the worst.
Well, here's the thing with that though. Why would you buy a know-nothing mobile game because you hate and you want to censor them? You know what I mean? Like they obviously want to have that game.
You mean that audience, I guess?
You know, they obviously want that. They want that game for some reason. Let's put it this way: like there's obviously a reason why Sony reached out and wanted to make a partnership with Stellar Blade.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, look, we want Stellar Blade to be our thing, right? Now, I don't think they're gonna attach Sarah Jessica Parker's face onto the character. I don't think that's gonna be.
You have too much faith in
No. I don't think they're going to. The character already looks pretty bland anyway. They're gonna probably keep the character looking the way it looks, which really isn't that exciting anyway. And like we probably discussed before, she's probably only gonna be in the story mode.
Yeah.
So if there's a multiplayer mode, we're gonna probably have some kind of character creator that's pretty busted. It's just like 5 options for every subset thing, and it's just gonna look like every other thing out there. God Eater was a good example of it that I've mentioned before. It's like maybe a total of 17 different variations of characters. You know, like, it's not exciting.
Right.
You know, it's not going to be ugly, but it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty mundane. It's not going to have like super big boobs. For instance, like the model already shows that it's pretty under the belt, as it were. And I think they're just going to keep it like that. Because it's honestly, I feel like it's going to be similar. It's going to be a similar censorship like China does. Like, it's in a keep out. That's good enough for us, and they just leave it at that. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
You know, like, it's going to be one of those situations where the character is still sexy, kinda, but not. It's not going to be like, what did they do to their face? I think the face is not going to be touched. It's not going to be one of their Western devs where they force that, because they haven't done that yet. Sony has not done that yet. Sony has Western devs who do that on their own and got ESG bonus points for it. But they themselves have not done it yet. A key word, yet.
Yeah.
Do I think they will eventually? Maybe. It's a possibility. It's something that I do not doubt will ever happen. But do I think it's going to happen to this one? No. I think a lot of the project is already playing a lot of safety numbers that I don't think they're going to really mess with it much. They'll probably tweak it, but the character is not going to be like, what the hell looked like. Like, honestly, I'd be even surprised if they go that far out of their way to change it. They clearly bought this project, not the company, for that particular audience. They saw that audience, and honestly, I feel like it's one of those, we're going to save the Japanese audience.
Korean?
I think, or Korean. Eastern audience in general, just collectively. And I think they're going to try to pull that, but then they're going to pull the reg underneath everyone once it releases and realize it plays like ass.
But they're so stupid. I have no faith in them.
Oh no, I don't think. I literally think the way it looks now is the way it's going to continue to look. Like, it's not. I think they're going to pump it full of graphical flashiness, and it's going to stay that way. But everything else is just going to play the most safest, blandest, straightforward way possible. It's going to be like, quite literally, you could probably have played it on a mobile game, because you got to think that's where a lot of this, like, their influence was.
Yeah. Well, it's either the only thing I'm going to predict is worst case scenario, the main character, she's going to be this story character, and then they're going to give you some generic bland Western.
No, I don't think they're going to Western for a custom creator. I don't think they're going to do that, because then they're going to be trying to force Korea to kind of work with the other Western companies. That's the reason why I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't know. I have very little faith.
Because honestly, I think that's a lot more money to be wasted into trying to do that than just letting them just have the most basic, blandest crap in it.
I don't know. They don't care. Have you seen Bob Iger? We don't care about
Bob Iger's
investors.
not Sony, though.
But still.
But that's my point, though. I like literally going out of their way to do that would just like, I'm not saying they're going to make the game like stupid beautiful. I think they're going to just add so many effects that people will look at screens and go, "Wow, that's going to be hype."
Just the power of the PS5, yeah.
Yeah, like that's exactly what it's going to be. They're going to shove so much reflections and graphical fidelity,
dynamic lighting,
and all that, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, that's dope as hell, man. I can't wait." And then when they play it, it's going to be like, it's going to show that the people who developed it developed mobile games. Let's just put it that way. You know, I don't think the beauty. I think the quote unquote beauty a lot of people are kind of praising it for isn't really there. It's very generic Korean mobile game look. It literally does, you know. But at the same time, that's where I think Sony wants that, so they could be like, "Yeah, we're pretty cool," you know. So that's why I don't think they're going to uglify the custom creation. I think they're going to keep it very shallow, though. Yeah. It's going to be like 3 options of hair, 3 options of faces, 3 options of voices.
Well, I mean, like it's we know they hate like anime and like pretty looking anime character girls. So no, like shove it.
They have like, we have very outspoken Western developers owned by Sony that are like that. Exactly that, like that, and that is exactly the problem we have with said people. Hell, there's people trying to like boost up The Last of Us Part 2 port being like a huge game changer for Sony. Like that's how up their own ass they are.
Have you seen
that
the
they're just sniffing their own fart like, oh man, I can't wait to do that again. Oh, I'm about to. Oh, like that is exactly what they're doing, and it's just the same. Even everybody's like, wow, they are intellectually and artistically dead right now.
Well, it's bots. It's either bots or they're paid for, because HBO said they did it.
Yeah, no, I believe that too. But there's a lot of people who also play the communal game. Basically, they agree with the way everyone else agrees, because that gets under the skin of the people they politically disagree with.
Yeah. Well, even then, like I was getting really tired of the anime fan service because it was cheap, and then Sony comes along and just be like, oh, we don't want none of this stuff anymore. So I was like, fine, fuck you guys. I don't know. It just really pissed me off because I was getting really tired of just generic anime games, because it's like, oh well, this does well, so just slap an anime girl on the cover.
Look at how Sony's been like. Sony has a track record of that so stupidly too. As soon as RPGs were becoming a huge thing, Sony invested in a shit ton of RPGs.
Yeah.
And then now they will never touch them.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the 2D side-scrolling platformers, because Mario was still pretty boss, and then they had the 3D adventures, and then they made Medieval to challenge it, and then they're like, nah, and they just won't touch it.
Yeah.
And then when they release a remake of it, they don't do anything with it. They don't add the character in some of their cross promos. No, it's still Horizon Zero Dawn. It's still God of War Ragnarok, and then it's still Last of Us. They didn't add him like, oh, by the way, he got a remake, so let's put his character, squeeze him right there, and we good.
Yeah.
It never was the case. So it's always about the brand idea, and it's been getting far more apparent every new console they release. It's buy us because we're PlayStation. You want to be cool, right? Cool people own PlayStation. Just buy a PlayStation. I mean, there's so many people still out there asking for PlayStation 5s and then just buying the system and then leaving.
The memes are great, though.
Like it's bad. No, the memes are great, though. It's just, it's like Sony's just constantly shooting themselves in the foot. And I think, quite literally, investing in this company, right, and this project was a bad idea to begin with.
Yeah.
For Sony. Even for Sony, for Shift Up, no, this is probably a golden calf.
This is
probably the best scenario they could get.
Okay.
Because honestly, I think even without them, I think this game will still, like, the only reason why this game is even being talked about right now is because now Sony has a name on it. That's what it. I really think when Stellar Blade would have released, it would have been released with no fanfare, no anybody, no hype, no anything. Even if they were able to add bigger tits to it, I think the game will still come out the same mobile sludge, because that's what they're familiar with. And people will just not talk about it. It'll just release, some people will do a review on it, and that's it. Like, it's not like Mario Wonder or God of War Ragnarok when it comes out and it's just like everyone's on top of that shit. I do think because of Sony's name is now on it, Stellar Blade's going to be in front of everyone's faces now.
Okay.
So fundamentally, I think it was the best deal this game had to get. But I think it was a bad move on Sony's end, even though considering Sony has made a lot of really bad moves. Like, let's be real here. Like, I don't know what the hell they're doing, dude.
Speaking of bad deals, right?
Bad deals.
Well, okay, here's a quick one. Basically,
we're gonna cover this one too. This one literally just happened as soon as we were recording.
So basically, Sony is getting rid of a bunch of Discovery. Discovery videos that you paid for. So Discover, and it's not that you can't download it. It's that they're gonna rip it from your hard drive and delete it from your hard drive.
So Steam has done this crap before too. When the game Hatred came out, by the way, mini review. Okay, game, if you want to take your anger out on stuff. Otherwise, it's shallow as shit. It's not really that exciting. the game was taken out basically kind of like a spiritual successor to Postal. You just go out, kill people because you snapped. You hate everything, hatred, right? Some people said, oh, these characters had longer frames for this woman and this black guy over this white guy, so it's clearly racist and sexist. And they went off on this huge tirade, right? And they decided like go completely bombastic on the developers to a point, and Steam to a point where they literally like without announcing it or anything just slowly removed that game from everyone's library in their hard drives. Like, oh well, we stand firm against blah blah blah. I'm like, people pay for that.
Yeah.
It was due to that backlash that they gave everyone back it again.
Yeah.
So Sony looked at it and people were like, yeah, thank God that happened, or else no other company would do that. Sony comes in and goes, really now? Taking movies away.
Well, don't trust digital. Like,
well, don't trust digital in a way that like digital should be cheaper anyway.
yeah.
But fundamentally, like, this type of crap is garbage. You know, like, imagine paying for something physical, and like it says, oh, you only have a 5-year warranty on that, and then they come in and go, we need to take that from you because you are only allowed to play that game for the 5 years you rented it for $70.
You know what makes it okay? Is if you didn't pay for it. Just saying.
You know, that's the thing. It's like more and more people are just, if you make people, like, we watched a couple people today about it. If you make people feel bad about doing the thing that's legitimate and you just underhandedly slap them in the face all the time, they're going to find other ways to do it.
Yeah.
And they're going to get it because they're just not going to care anymore. And these people who are trying to do service games and service like cloud gaming and stuff like that, they think like it is a very like World Economic Forum-y type of thought. Everything could become a potential success to service than owning things. Because why do you want to own things? So I could play whatever the hell I want. So I could have access to whatever the hell I want. You know? Like, that's so stupid. Like, imagine having to have a service fee for your fucking fridge, you know?
Yeah.
And there's people, Samsung's looking into investing in something like that. A smart fridge that can articulate and then send you reports about how cold your fridge is. What the hell do I need that for?
Smart water bottles.
I'm like, that is so stupid, you know? Like, get charged because you're not staying hydrated enough. Like, that is some dumb bullshit. Yet we have people like California that, oddly enough, is attached to the rest of the world, thinking that would be a brilliant idea. You know? And Sony looks at it, being in California, going, this is a brilliant idea. Let's take away movies you just spent money on. There's no refunds. There's no, like, oh, we're just removing it, but those who bought it can really download it and crap.
Yeah. Nope. They just yanked everything.
Everything. And there's like, yep, thanks for the support, guys. Now, I'm going to poop on your plate, and you better eat it, because I really don't want the poop to be shown. You know, like, it's embarrassing. So,
Fuck Sony.
yeah.
Right.
Sony just like looks at the shit and then purposely steps in it and then blames us for it. Like, that's just like, remember when people used to use Sony and people used to be like, man, Sony's so cool because they were able to make games that on CDs, and they really stomped Nintendo out. Dude, Nintendo was in the right. Literally, Sony's PlayStation was like one of the worst things to happen to video games. Think about it. At that point, we became completely normalized to just accept load times longer than 5 minutes because the game's gonna be good. Maybe, I guess. You know, like it got that bad.
Yeah.
And like we still get those type of things. And now we have consoles that go, guess what? We load up pretty fast. I'm like, yeah. So did the 64. You know, like we're that's now your angle. That's literally like making the problem, then making the solution to it.
Remember when you guys said 0 loading times? Yeah.
Yeah.
We still get loading times.
Yeah. So, way to go, Sony. Like, Anyway, talk about indies. Like, seriously, though. Like, this is the only way to really kind of kick everyone in the nuts is just buy indie games, man. Indie games and old games. Like, that's it. Like, I'm even getting tired of some of Nintendo's own crap sometimes. You know? Like, I don't want Nintendo Switch Online, Super Nintendo. Give me a physical copy of a collection of games that I'm allowed to have from Nintendo, from the regular Nintendo, and another one from the Super Nintendo, and then charge me $75. I will buy that.
Yeah.
I will not, however, pay for a premium subscription to have access to 64 games. Fuck you. Just not happening. But the DLC will be free. It's not free because the moment you stop the subscription, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, duh. Anyway, I should probably calm down. So, I'd like to thank you guys all for listening into another episode of Your Turn. If you kind of like this new every other week update, feel free to let us know. Give us some feedback on it. If you like our content and you want us to grow better, always feel free to like, subscribe, and share. And as always,
we will see you on the other side.
Hey everyone, this is Paraka.
And Ghost.
I would like to say thank you for listening to our podcast.
If you like our content, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe and share our video with your friends.
You can also follow and support us on other social media such as Minds and Rumble. Links in the description below.